Hi, everyone. It's Tessa.
And Joe.
From the Unveiling Paradise podcast.
Tessa, summer is almost here, and so many of our listeners are about to have their epic destination wedding.
And we are so excited for you guys.
Before the big day, guys, we want you to make sure you listen to these 3 episodes.
Episode 62, Deep Diving Your Wedding Ceremony.
Episode 53, Questions Your Wedding Guests Will Ask.
And episode 31, the final countdown to your wedding day.
And if you're planning your wedding here in Hawaii, hit us up and ask us about our Unveiling Paradise podcast promo.
Happy planning. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the final episode of season 4 of the Unveiling Paradise podcast. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Tessa. Can you believe we made it to 60 episodes?
Technically, we didn't finish 60 yet. So we have made it through 59 episodes.
So we have to make it through the next, 25 minutes, and we will hit our 60.
Yay!
So hopefully everything goes well.
Fingers crossed.
I have faith in you. I hope you have a little bit of faith left in me.
I have total faith in you. Let's do this.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
Sure. Well, we have tons to talk about, but full disclosure, we've had a lot of questions from our listeners. So today we're making it all about you, the listeners, not you, Joe, the listeners.
Thank you.
We've had a ton of questions that people have been asking and emailing and texting and DMing. We kind of put them together, and we want to talk about this today. So what are the questions that you have, and how can we help answer them for you?
This is actually one of my favorite parts of the show, is actually getting to hear from you guys, our listeners, and all the questions that come up. Like we hear questions that you and I don't even think about because we're on the other side of the recording studio, right? We don't get to have that like conversation with you guys and the questions that come up from some of the things that we're sharing. And so it's really fun to get these questions and to get feedback on our show. So thank you guys for sharing everything that you shared. Let's get into this. Let's jump into these questions. It's going to be super fun. Hopefully we come to some sort of agreement.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So let's get started. Welcome to Unveiling Paradise, your go-to destination wedding podcast. I'm Tessa, wedding planner and owner of Fred & Kate Events.
And I'm Joe, wedding and adventure photographer of Joseph Esser Photography. We are based in Hawaii, one of the biggest, most popular locations for destination weddings.
We want to share our real-life experiences with you, give you insight from a professional's perspective, and still make sure you're having fun in the process.
We're huge believers in the fact that planning a destination wedding can be one of the most amazing experiences, and we want to bring you along.
We're so excited to talk with you about weddings, Hawaii, and everything else under the sun.
So pack your bags and let's get started.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get into this, Tessa. We have, 10 questions around? 10-ish questions from our listeners. These are real listeners who actually listen to our show. Yay!
Yay, thank you.
Which is amazing. You guys are still there with us. So, Tessa, how did you actually get to these specific 10 questions? Because we have had a lot of questions. Are these your favorite listeners? Or are they like your favorite questions or something that we just haven't talked about yet?
It's a mix of all. So I definitely have favorite listeners. They're the ones that are active and they email us all the time and they send us questions.
If you're listening, that's probably you.
I'm not naming names. But also I think a lot of these questions are things that we haven't yet addressed. So I thought that this would be a good place for us to start.
Okay, perfect. Can I start with the first question? And you get to answer it.
Sure.
Okay. The question is this: do we need wedding insurance? What is that, and what are the different types? So I guess let's start with that. What is wedding insurance, and do you recommend it for your couples?
Sure. So I think it can get a little confusing. I think, to be honest, I'm a little confused too, but there are different types of insurance. So as a photographer or as a wedding planner, we have our own business insurance and that covers us. So a lot of times when you're going to a venue, when you're going to a place to get married, they will ask for insurance. It's not necessarily for you, it's for your vendors. If you as a vendor, as a photographer, as a wedding planner, if we were to get hurt on their property, right? Our insurance covers us versus their insurance. And a lot of times that's what they're looking for. When couples are talking about wedding insurance for themselves, it kind of becomes more of a, what if something should happen to the wedding? What if there's a natural disaster? What if we cancel or whatever? Will we get our money back? So again, that's a different type of insurance.
Would you say that wedding insurance is kind of similar to when you're buying your airline tickets and they say, do you want to insure this trip? Is it something similar like that in case you have to cancel or in case there's some sort of natural disaster. Is it the same thing? And does it cover the same type of things?
I think similar to that, where again, it helps to manage, crazy situations that may make your wedding not happen. With that said, I know, a few years ago when we were going through the pandemic, a lot of those wedding insurances didn't cover that. So when you're getting your insurance, if you choose to get insurance, it's really doing your homework and figuring out what exactly does it cover.
Okay, so from my understanding, I agree with you on that. I think a lot of it has to do with if there's like a hurricane and you have to cancel or postpone, it would cover the postponement costs. If there's a death in the family or something like that, I think some of these wedding insurances cover that. Do you recommend it? I'm just curious, in terms of what you recommend to your couples, do you recommend having it?
So I don't normally recommend wedding insurance because, and for me, when I'm looking at wedding insurance, it's those big natural disasters. If something crazy, death in the family, what I recommend instead of wedding insurance is working with trusted vendors. And the reason for that is, for example, if someone came to me and they said, hey, my mom passed away, 2 days ago. Is there any way we can push the wedding? Of course, I'm going to work with them to find a new date. I would hope that these other wedding vendors will too. You have vendors that have tangible items that they cannot replace, and there may be some cost, but for me, that kind of balances the wedding insurance prices. So my thought is I do not recommend wedding insurance. I think it's better to just, again, have conversations with your vendors of what should happen if something crazy happens in our lives.
I like that. And I think if you have a lot of those tangible items, let's say you're spending $200,000 on floral, and you know that that's going to be a cost that's going to be eaten if you have to cancel, then it makes sense, right? If your budget is going to floral and catering, tangible objects, I think it might make sense. I honestly, probably like you, I don't know a lot of couples who actually have wedding insurance.
Okay, can I ask you the next question, Joe?
Yeah, of course, go for it.
For the timing of the day, does it make sense to do hair and makeup at the wedding venue or off-site somewhere at a hotel or a house or somewhere not at the actual wedding venue?
Oh, wow. Okay. I like this a lot. This is actually a question that I do get from my couples a lot.
I know. That's why I thought I'd ask you.
Well, okay. So there's a couple things that go into my answer. If everything can be at one location, I think it's ideal, right? So if you're getting ready at the hotel that you're having your reception at, your ceremony at, that makes the most amount of sense for me. But a lot of times that's not the case. Sometimes we have weddings at these beautiful outdoor venues that it's basically just the property. There is no physical structure where you could actually get ready at. And then there are places, venues that have these like little cottages or things where you could get ready at, but they're not really that picturesque. I always think for the bridal prep, for those photos of hair and makeup and, shooting the dress and those kind of like those things, you have to think about what space you're working with. Is it a nice space to get ready at? Is it a nice space to take your detailed photos at? Like I can tell you talk to your photographer. Your photographer has a lot to say about this. There are venues where I say absolutely do all of these things at a hotel room. And there's other venues where I'm like, you can get by in that space.
I totally agree with you. I think, when you're talking about a lot of these venues or when they have those little cottages on property, a lot of times we can't get in before a certain time. So even though it does make sense to get there, we just may not be able to start early enough at that venue. So you may have to, by default, get ready at a hotel, get ready at someone's house, and then drive over to the property to finish your hair and makeup or finish your getting ready. But sometimes just logistically, we're not allowed in early enough when your hair and makeup has to start.
Okay, next question. This is actually great. I like this one. This is for you. I think it's a perfect fit for you.
Okay.
Who normally takes all of the stuff at the end of the night? And what about the cake? So are you talking about the cards and the like gifts and things? Or are we talking about like the flowers and like the table scapes?
The table.
The table.
So, when I was reading the question, they're really saying, right, at the end of the night, the cleanup. Who's supposed to take all the stuff? Because you have to realize when you're setting up a wedding, you're bringing all of these things in, right? You can have your friends and family bringing all of these things for you. For example, a guest book. You may have some welcome signs, some easels. You may have some table numbers, some centerpieces. At the end of the night, all of that has to go somewhere. Your alcohol, any leftover food, whatever else you can take, you have to find someone to take those home. Is it you? Is it your parents? You have to remember at the end of the night, everyone's been drinking, everyone's tired. Your parents may be leaving early, so they're not there till the end. Do you want them taking all of your centerpieces 2 hours before you're done?
I feel like the groomsmen always want to take the alcohol. Easily volunteer for that.
Okay, so the alcohol is taken care of, check, but everything else, right? And again, I mentioned specifically what about the cake? Because a lot of times what will happen is you have this huge 2-3 tier cake. They'll do a cake cutting and they don't serve it. So now you have to find someone that can not just take the cake home, but store it.
We know that would be
It's
you.
me. Yeah,
of
I'm
course.
happy to volunteer, but then you don't get the cake. So again, right, it's just who normally takes it home. A lot of times it's designating people, whether it be a friend, a family member, someone that's not staying at the hotel, or someone that can transport things. If they're on a shuttle with everybody else, it's kind of hard to take it. So who's taking everything home at the end of the night?
Is it typically a family member or friend you want to put in charge of it? Is it something that you get asked to do? Is it something that is included in like wedding planning services?
So at the end of the night, it normally will be a family or friend. And to be honest, it's normally someone that's not drinking, right?
Yeah.
That can pack up all the stuff, that has a car, that can take all of those things home. Some wedding planners will take it all home at the end and ship it for you. It's just additional fees. So it's not impossible. But if you know you're going to take it, or a lot of my couples, if they make those signs, they just toss them.
What about like the tablescapes and the floral? I know that a lot of times like there's just so much floral that's left over that just stays at the venue. What happens to that?
So a couple things, right? Most times the couples will want to take it home or give it to family and friends. If everyone's coming from out of town and they aren't going to be here, they don't want to waste it, they can also donate it to some hospitals, retirement homes. If they don't want to do that, we trash it.
That's too bad.
It's kind of a waste. I know.
I love that though. I mean, I actually see that happening at the retirement homes, like how to make like kind of a dreary place
Yeah.
really beautiful.
So the funny thing is I actually live next to a retirement home. So whenever people don't want to take it, I will often drop it off at night, in the middle of the night to the retirement home so they wake up to some flowers.
Oh, that's cute. You're such a good Samaritan.
I try. Okay, Joe, the next question is for you. I feel like you're getting the ones that are very specific to you. So here we go. One of our listeners asked, what is a realistic amount of time to have for photography on my wedding day?
All right, so you need an actual number. I think my sweet spot is 8 hours. And the reason why is you want to cover and you want to document your full day. We actually talked about this on an entire episode. You're starting with hair and makeup, and you're going to want to have your photographer there the entire program, to the dancing, to all the fun parts, the fun, like the party stuff. Just off the top of my head, 8 hours, you can fit that all in and you're not rushing through your day. You're not missing anything. But again, like everything depends on what you have planned. We've done weddings for 16 hours and, it really depends on how that day unfolds for you.
I can't imagine how tired you were at the end of a 16-hour day shooting nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, that's like 2 weddings, basically.
2 weddings in one day. Your whole team must have been exhausted.
Okay, I get the next question. It's about saving money.
I can't wait.
Okay, so our question is this. Are there better days or times of the day, I guess that's what it means, that you can save money on your wedding? So if you're booking a specific day of the week or a specific month of the year, are there dates that save you money?
Okay, I'm going to start with this for actual days, like time of day. And the way you can save money is doing a lunch versus dinner.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
So
Because a lot of times if you're doing a daytime wedding versus an evening wedding, you will save money on a couple reasons. Number one, lunch tends to be cheaper, so you're going to have a lower food and beverage minimum, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, right? Food and beverage minimums are a big part of your budget. You can also find a little more, I think, wiggle room negotiation with all of your vendors if you're doing a daytime wedding versus an evening. Reason being, majority of the weddings are in the evening. If you're doing a short daytime wedding, they can likely also book an evening wedding at the same time. So again, daytime versus evening will help you save money.
But it comes at a sacrifice, right? Your wedding is finished at noon or 2 o'clock.
That's amazing. I had a daytime wedding. You want to say something?
But I think for me, like what I love about weddings is the party. You don't really get the party happening at
But I think
noon.
everybody has a different need and want for their wedding.
Sure.
Right?
Okay. I guess we're arguing about this one. I don't like your answer.
Well, I have more to say. May I finish? Yeah. Okay. So then we're looking at day of week. Whenever we look at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday weddings, they're always going to be more expensive than a weekday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, even if you do an evening, will likely be cheaper than a weekend wedding.
I feel like the venues have the same pricing during the weekday.
So the venues will have lower food and beverage minimums on weekdays versus weekends. When you're looking at an outdoor venue, their pricing is often cheaper on a weekday versus weekend. So at either venue, you will likely save money. What else I want to say too is if you're booking a photographer, for example, on a Tuesday, you're likely going to have a better chance at negotiating a price than like on a Saturday night.
That is so interesting. And I am totally in disagreement with you.
Are you?
Yeah, because we also live in this place called Hawaii. Weddings here are not like your standard Saturday, Sunday events. A lot of the destination market wedding here is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I can book my Thursday just as much as I can book my Saturday. And in fact, it has to do with this. When you think of a destination wedding, a lot of your guests are going to fly in on the weekend. So they might fly out of their hometown on a Saturday to then arrive, have that whole week there, to then fly out again on that next weekend. The weddings are typically middle of the week. So honestly, that to me, like the middle of the week is just as much of our bread and butter as our weekends are. So for our company, we actually don't do any discounts. That's like prime time for us.
Interesting. We are disagreeing.
But don't you agree?
You know, to some degree, yes. But at the same time, like I said, I do work with a lot of vendors that are willing to offer weekday discount. Okay, Joe, my next question to you. What are some easy ways to cut our budget? We've overspent. We're at the end of our budget. What can we do?
Okay, since this is our last recording for season 4, I feel like I haven't been punchy enough with you.
What?
So here's my answer. See if you can fire your coordinator.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. She's already planned the whole thing for you. She doesn't need
You've
to be
got
there.
the timeline.
You got the timeline. Just don't pay her that final payment.
Oh, wow, that is punchy. Is that your final answer?
Oh, no, I can't actually say that. That would be a bad idea. But you can uninvite some of your guests who are going to eat food. If there's people that are there that you're not going to enjoy being there, just say, oh, sorry, last minute changes. You're no longer invited. Honestly, I think this is a question that should happen at the beginning or mid part of your wedding planning and not the end. Like you can't uninvite your guests. You can't kill your wedding coordinator off, but you can do some things where you can start saying, you know, what is a reasonable number of guests to have? If you're at 200 and you're going to be way over budget with that, look at that guest count and say, how do we make it work for 150? Look at your vendors. What are must-have vendors? Who are your nice-to-have vendors? So maybe that might be a photo booth company or whatever it might be. Don't book them and just try to stick in that budget and see what happens. Because I think at the end of the day, you don't want to have any kind of buyer's remorse. You don't want to miss out on things because you're trying to do too much with too little.
Exactly. And I think you made a good point, Joe, is it has to be done in the beginning of the planning process, right? When people are excited and they just want to start booking vendors, if we know that we're going to be cutting their budget or we know their budget's going to be tight before they book something, I really like to sit down with them and say, let's hold off on these until we know we have the budget. So then you're not awkwardly doing that dance at the end, you know, hoping and praying that auntie doesn't come. So you have that extra $100, right? So really thinking about it beforehand and being strategic with your money is really how we try to manage your budget instead of having to cut at the end.
Can I add one more thing to my answer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I also want to say this. Stick to your guns, right? If you are at 100 people and there's another 50 people that want to show up, you kind of have to hold your ground. Stick to your guns. You know, like I've seen this before happen where at the last minute, the couple brings in another 40 guests. And what happens is they go way over budget.
Right.
So if you're, you know, stick to your guns, stick to your budget. Like if 100 is your max, stick with that. This happened to me this year. I had a wedding and the guest count was 100 people. The couple kept on inviting and saying, okay, yes, you can bring your daughter. Yes, you can bring your boyfriend. Yes, yes, yes. And by the end of the day, their guest count went from 100 to 167.
Ooh, that's a lot
That's
more.
a lot. They were way over budget with their food and beverage and all the things that they were doing. And they came to me and they said, hey, we want to cut out photo. We want to cut your time from 8 hours to an hour. I've already brought in my whole team for this wedding. Like this is a day out. You can't just like fire off your vendors.
So it was one day out.
It was a few days out where they just started freaking out about their budget.
Sure.
And it was just because they kept on inviting more and more people without thinking about what that cost is. Did they want to get rid of photo? No, but they were so stressed out by being so far over budget. They had nothing else that they could do. They didn't end up cutting photo. That would have been a dumb idea. But they, you know, like I think it was just like they were just so overwhelmed. It was really unfortunate they were having to deal with this, being so stressed out by this, the day before their wedding.
And unnecessarily so, right? If they stuck to their guns, like you said, if they pre-planned their budget, it would have gone a lot smoother as it led up to their wedding day.
Okay, next question. We are talking about money again. A lot of money questions.
I love it.
Okay, so here's the question. Do we need to tip our vendors? Okay, and I actually want to just, before you get into your answering these, I know that there are some vendors that have a service charge. We're not talking about that. We're talking about services like yourself, photographers, makeup artists. Who should you be tipping? And then I want to ask you the next harder question. How much?
No.
I'm doing it.
Oh, this
Rule
is
of thumb. Let's talk about this.
I think this is a really loaded question, right? I think when it comes to tipping, are you required to tip? No, right? Unless it states in their contract, you have to tip us, then no, you don't have to tip anyone. With that said, it is proper etiquette that you do tip your vendors. When we're saying who to tip and who not to, rule of thumb is you tip all of them. How much you tip will vary. And I've read online and I've read some little notebooks and etiquette books that if the owner is the person that's working, you don't have to tip, versus if it's a company, you do have to tip. And I have big feelings about that. And we can talk about that too. But I believe you should be tipping all of your vendors.
Interesting. This is going to be so fun. Okay. Why don't we start the show with this? Okay. I want to talk about a few specific vendors to start out with.
Okay.
Your cake person, the person who made your cake. I think this might be controversial, but I don't know if you need to tip the person who made your cake.
I don't think you need to tip them a huge amount, but I think a small tip is appropriate. A lot of times now, if you think the cakes are a lot more elaborate than they were, they're doing these dessert setups. Like there's a lot more involved than a small little sheet cake. So yes, tip your cake person.
Okay. What about like some of the other services where they just come and drop off their stuff and they leave? Like the rental company, the florist. Do you tip them? Like you're not even seeing them. Like, do you tip them?
I think yes. Again, even if you don't see them, it doesn't mean they're not working hard for you. You know, the florist has created your vision, set up this design, will likely move your flowers from ceremony to reception, come back and pick up all those candles at the end of the night. Like, I think they deserve a tip. Yes. Same with the rentals. You don't see them, but you have the people that have been working in the office changing your order. You have the people that are setting up, breaking down, making sure the tent has no holes. Like you don't see it, but they're putting a lot of work into it too. And yes, is it their job? It is. But we are a service industry. So do I think you should tip them? Yes, I do.
Okay, so maybe this is me being a penny pinching Scrooge or whatever, but I feel like for me, a lot of my tipping has to do with customer service. When you give me excellent customer service, I think that's my rule of thumb. Like if I'm like, wow, you made my day so special, you walked me through the day, like you made me look beautiful, whatever it is, those are the people that I personally are more deserving of tips than the person who puts out the cake. You know what I mean? Makeup artists. I feel like I always see makeup artists getting tipped.
Well, so the funny thing is, a lot of them, it's in their contract, right? Because it's a beauty service. Like if you think about it, you tip your nail stylist, you tip your hair person, right? So I think hair and makeup people fall into that category of naturally getting tipped, which I agree with. They should.
Perfect. I naturally get tipped a lot too.
Believe it or not,
yeah, we don't have anything in our contract, but I think people always are like, because we're so involved with the couple where we walk them through the day, we get tipped out a lot. And it's always appreciated. We share it with our team and everything. I feel like this is going to be sort of weird to say to you since I'm looking at you across the microphone, but I feel like I get tipped out a lot more than you do. I feel like you get overlooked for tips more than I do. And I don't really understand that. Is that true?
I think sometimes, and the reason, and it's kind of funny, but a lot of times people will ask me like, who should I tip? It's awkward for me to say like me or my company. So I just leave it out. So I don't. I honestly, I think a lot of times my couples will be like, oh my God, I didn't even tip you. Or, hey, why didn't you put your name on the list? I think it's awkward.
That would be awkward. I couldn't do that.
It goes kind of back to, again, a lot of these online forums say if you are the owner or if the owner is there, you shouldn't tip. My problem with that, and this is my own thought, is again, just like you, I take my tips, I share it with my team, and what we actually do is I pull them. We do an awesome party every year, and you've been to my party, and you know that they're awesome. This year, I actually pulled our tips. I took them to Vancouver. So we actually went on a trip.
With all the tip money from all of the weddings you guys had done together.
Yeah, so all of the food, the drinks, the hotel, everything was covered by our clients. So it is absolutely appreciated.
Cool, I love that.
Okay, so going along with tipping the vendors, Joe, my question for you is, do we need to feed our vendors?
If I have to choose between tips and being fed, I'll always go with food because, you know, like you have to think about a wedding day. we are going the whole day. Being a wedding photographer, being a wedding videographer is not a normal job. We don't get to have like 15-minute, 30-minute lunch breaks where we leave the building, go to McDonald's, order our Happy Meals or whatever we do. Like, you just don't have that opportunity. You have to feed your vendors. If you don't, they're not eating. Like, you're not packing food to a wedding. You just like, you don't have the capacity to carry your meals with you when you're going from portraits to ceremony to like, wherever it is, you just don't. So like, you have to. Most photographers, most videographers do have that in their contract. Whether or not the couple reads that is a different story, but I think it's pretty standard.
I have a really cute story for you. Can
Okay.
I tell
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay, so this past week, I went to lunch with a former couple, and it's so cute. They have a baby. We were kind of hanging out, and, we were reminiscing about their wedding. They got married in 2019. Super, super cute. Anyway, we were talking about, their wedding and what they loved and what they didn't love and things they would change. And the funny thing, the one thing they said, and they did, they had a fabulous meal. They fed the vendors. But I remember, they were out at a venue where they got married on a Friday afternoon. The traffic was awful, and we started about 45 minutes late. So with that, we adjusted the timeline. We adjusted cocktail hour. The vendors were moving the entire time. Like, it was just nonstop. So they didn't eat until probably 9 o'clock at night.
That's crazy.
And there was nothing we could do. Their one thing is they're like, we wish that we had provided snacks in addition to a meal for the vendors. So a table of apples and granola bars and chips or something for the vendors. Because they were like, when we look back and we realize how hard they worked for us, and we didn't mean to not provide food for them, but it was just the food service. It was a plated meal. And because we were running late, the food service was running late. The caterer could not get to the vendor meals in time. She's like, we felt awful. She's like, we still think about it to this day. I thought it was really sweet how much thought they put into the fact that what could we do to make the vendor experience better for them?
And I'm not going to point fingers, but
I see your finger. What?
I do know someone who I share a podcast with who gets the case of the hangries if you don't feed her. So,
but I bring snacks. And
You
listen,
do, yeah.
I bring snacks for everybody.
but you don't want to have a hangry vendor at your wedding. You just don't.
It's not fair. It's not cool for anyone.
Okay, I love this. We have a couple more questions, guys. Do you think it's better to write our own vows or repeat the normal ones? Tessa, you're up.
I personally like when couples write their own vows. I think it's cute. I think it's sweet. It's intimate and it's them, right? If they are super funny, I would expect that the vows be very funny and light. If they are very romantic and serious, I would expect that from their vows. This is a chance for you to showcase your personality with each other. So I love when they write their own vows.
Well, I'm so happy to agree with you on this. I cannot handle the scripted vows.
Really?
So death do us part, richer or poorer. Like, if you're going to take those, go richer or richer, guys. Like, make it fun, make it meaningful. Your vows are your promises to your partner. Why do you want to use somebody's script? This is like, a ceremony shouldn't be pledging allegiance or like, you know what I mean? Or like, it just shouldn't be. It should be personalized. And I also want to say one more thing. I actually have a lot more to say, but we have a show that's got to have a certain amount of time. Write it on paper. Don't write your vows on your phone. It looks so weird in photos. It looks so weird in video. Like, if you have it on your phone, it just looks weird. And it's so easy to delete on accident. I'm so happy we agree on this. I can't handle the generic normal ones. Whatever that means.
A quick story too is one time it was pouring rain and the couple had their vows on their phone and it kept like, when you're touching it and the rain, like they couldn't open their vows because the rain kept like turning off their phone.
Write your own vows and write it on paper.
And then laminate it to be safe if it's raining.
Like that.
I have one last question. It's kind of a high level. Let's end this season on a high note.
Is this your question? I feel like you wrote this question.
I wrote it.
Okay, fine.
I'm not going to lie. This was mine. And I actually have my answer ready. So you can go first, but then I'll have my answer. Joe, what piece of advice would you give to our couples getting married?
Okay, Tessa. At the risk of being a sycophant, hire a wedding planner. Like, just start with hiring a wedding planner. I know that this is like, I'm not trying to kiss your butt. Like,
sounds like you are.
But if you start with a wedding planner, you guys already know this. I think that's my piece of advice. It just makes everything make sense.
What I'm understanding is you want me to continue with season 5.
I didn't say hire you. I said a planner.
Fine, I'll take it. Okay, this is my piece of advice. And I thought about this last night, and this is my favorite, is enjoy your day. So take that time.
I'm rolling my eyes.
I know why.
Did you work hard on that?
Well, it's an important one because, again, I was reading through all the questions. You know, we were prepping for the other episodes. And again, there's so much that goes on through your day. I just did a wedding a couple days ago, and the couple at the end of the night, like every couple says, like it goes by in the blink of an eye. Like they are trying to stop and absorb every moment, right? So really take that time to enjoy your day. Try to take a step back. Try to enjoy yourself. Take those moments for the two of you so you can look back and really just have a memorable experience with the one you love.
That is so cheesy. We cannot end the season with that amount of cheese.
You have something you want to say?
Enjoy your day, guys. Gosh. All right, here's my response.
You have another piece of advice. Bring it.
Don't lean into the cheese. Like, stay away from the cheese, guys. Follow the trap of a cookie cutter wedding. You're going to be bored. If you're planning your wedding, do something special, unique to you guys. If you're into dancing, create the most epic dance party of your lives. If you're into singing, sing at your wedding. Do whatever you want to do. This is your day. Don't follow any of our advice if it doesn't sit right with you. Plan your wedding for that day that you want to enjoy. And then, what did you say? Enjoy the moment. Be in the moment.
That's rude.
Okay, so I guess I can agree with you on that. But like, create something that is for you.
That is great advice, Joe. I love it. And that is a great way for us to end season 4.
All right. Are we going to make it to season 5?
I think so. Why not? We'll see you all back here soon.
Or we won't. This is like one of those horrible Netflix series where you're like, are they going to continue the show?
Or not.
Or not. So I'm like Googling it.
Find out later.
What happened with Unveiling Paradise?
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, guys. And we will hopefully catch you back on our show real soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Unveiling Paradise.
If you enjoy our show, please follow us and rate us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would really mean a lot.
And don't forget to also get on our mailing list and follow us on Instagram. Just do it already.
Until next time, this is Tessa.
And this is Joe.
And don't forget, your happily ever after
It's just a plane ride away.